are coming to light like daily that I think it's important to keep, just keep track of everything and how's everything going. So I'm going to do a big zodiac for the world. So a world zodiac for March. Okay, an update. Yeah, we're on March, what is it? 8th, I think it is today. We're well into March. We need an update. Okay, so let's have a look. So we are coming up as the 8 of Pentacles, working away on our stuff, working away on, what is truth. It's like we've been working so hard. Anybody watching channels like this at uncovering, all the lies and just really discovering beneath the veil what's really going on. So we're continuing and we're getting it. 8 of Pentacles, we're getting it. We're getting somewhere with that card. That's a really good card. And across from it is the Hermit. So the Hermit across from, so we're getting connected to and we're having a really good and sort of fulfilling relationship with this 8 of Pentacles, with ourselves, our higher selves, our spiritual selves. So it feels like a lot of people have made a connection. If they hadn't had one before, they're really working on making a connection with their higher self. And if they already had a connection with their higher self, they're really getting to know themselves. It's like we're getting to have a relationship. All this time alone, all this time separated, all of this time actually worked to the benefit of humans if we let it. Okay. And it gave us some time to reflect and to really look at what's wrong with our world, what's wrong with our history, what's wrong with the way we do things, our governments, our elites. I use the term loosely. What is really going on? We've really had time to actually sit and think about that. A lot of us. And I feel like we've actually created a better connection with ourselves, our higher selves, and the spirit world, which is likely exactly what this whole exercise is all about. You got to remember when hard times happen here on the earth plane, it's co-created. We've co-created it somehow. We've agreed to it somehow on some higher level because we have something to learn from it. So it looks like we're doing our work, which is brilliant. Okay, now financially, this is interesting. And this has been fairly consistent here in the cards over the last year and a half. Okay, we're going into a period of time that will be very different. Our financial system's going to look really different, but it'll allow us to acquire abundance in a different way than we did before. It isn't going to be that dog-eat-dog rat race that we're used to. Okay, there's going to be a really unique way where everybody has more of a chance to be abundant here. And I always believed that why on earth would we come to a place, would our soul agree to come somewhere where it's just struggle, struggle, struggle? That doesn't make sense. It feels to me like it's meant to be more like we're meant to actually enjoy the fruits of the earth. Okay. And I believe it's for everyone and not just the chosen few. And that's where we part ways with what we call the systems and the elites that have been created. All of those systems that were created by the elites or so-called elites were created to divide the has and the have-nots. And there's a lot more have-nots than haves. There's just a grouping of families and all of their chosen peoples. Okay. And very, very few. It's like a 1% of the 1% or something. Okay. And they're the haves, and everybody else is either a minion of those haves and or have-nots. Most of us are have-nots. Okay. That's all changing, you guys. The have-nots are going to have more ability to have abundance here. And we're going to have to show our higher selves what really we can do with that abundance, how we can share it around and actually use it for good. Think about that. When you do create abundance yourself, and it looks like a lot of us will have an opportunity to do that in the coming years, okay? Think about how you're going to utilize it and what are you going to do with that energy? It's an energy. How are you going to utilize it? How are you going to share it? Okay, so here we've got the Knight of Cups. Now, this is going forward. It's the third house. So it's talking about how we're thinking and what we're putting out there mentally, verbally. So what we're creating, because we create with our thoughts, words, and hearts. How we feel about things, what we speak about things, what we focus on mentally. Okay, and that Knight of Cups. So we're more looking at our heart and letting our heart lead our thoughts and words. So we're feeling how we want things to be in the future, and we're letting our heart lead the way with our words and thoughts. Okay, so that's really important. And here we've got the 8. We don't see a lot of what we've mentally, verbally manifested yet, but it's just waiting there. It's just beyond our grasp here. So it's not that it isn't coming. We just don't see it yet. So the world we know is possible, and the world we've been talking about manifesting intellectually in our hearts, it's held up here. And I believe the only thing between us and it is the mainstream media. How do you like that? And the last little fragments of governments and systems. Okay, those are all coming down. And let me tell you, I'm hoping in March. So let's keep looking. So here we've got 7 of Cups. 7 of Cups. Now that's a fairly dysfunctional card, and that's in our home place and where we live. Maybe what even we're feeding our bodies, what we're eating, what we're consuming, things like that. So that's interesting, what we're taking into our home. We've still got some bad patterns we need to up and out. We've still got in our deep hearts, we've got fears and bad habits and patterns. The last thing left for us to really clear up here before we can shift into a whole different and more evolved and step up world, we're going to need to let go of fears. We're going to have to let go of fears and see this for even things we don't see, but we were told about. So we get told about things, we assume if enough people hear about it, it must be true. Okay. And that isn't always the case. That isn't always the case. Like I'll get emails that have been passed around, and they're absolutely gut punching. Okay. And people are still passing them around. It's like, is that something you want to manifest? Do you really want to share that intellectually, verbally, even written word? You want others to read that? Okay. If it's not something you want to manifest, don't share it. Okay. Don't share it. It's a fear. Okay, share the vision of what you want to come and not the worst case scenario. So we still got to work on that in order to manifest the world and what's really holding it up here. And it would only shift with if everybody agreed to share, speak about, think about, and focus on the world as if it's already there, the one we want, we would see a change a lot quicker here. So that's one of the things holding up. We'd already have it, I think, if we could all get on board with agreeing to a vision or visualizing a best case scenario and talking about it, because that's how magic works, okay? It's using your thoughts and words, intentions, visions, and your heart, like how you want to feel about things, okay? So getting and stepping out of fear. We keep slipping back into that pattern of fear. So we've got to work on it. And we know that there's going to be a few more, fearful things come up in the coming month. I mean, people are calling it March Madness, and there's apparently supposed to be some really crazy things happen. Like potentially a big alien invasion. And the only thing fake about it is the actual aliens. The rest could be real. So there's some version of that most likely coming. Potentially a whole nother illness scare and lockdown scare that looks like it's coming from the elites and, the new world peoples. Okay. But they've all been, for the most part, dismantled in the background. Okay. So try to remember that, right? When things like that go down, try to remember this is likely just showing you what they had up their sleeve. Okay, so try to remember. So we're going to need to be really weary and careful of fears cropping back in and be mindful of that. And when they come, we can acknowledge that they're there. Okay, thank you for, telling me that fearful thing or putting that in front of me. I'm going to let that go and visualize my future doesn't look like that. Okay, so you need to be diligent about how you really want your future to look and stay focused on that. Okay, so here we've got the Two of Wands. So the Two of Wands, this is interesting. Okay, I'm thinking there's a lot more family members and friends looking from a safe perspective at what us truthers have been talking about. I feel like we might see a surge in subscribers and channels like this. We might see a surge in people sharing information that we've been sharing for a couple of years. All of a sudden, they're sharing it as if it was new. It's new to them, I guess, right? There's a whole bunch of newly red-pilled people we can expect here in the coming months, okay, that are looking from a safe perspective, at some of these rabbit holes we've been going down. So we may even get some curious people coming over, old friends, looking us up, saying, hey, that video you shared with me months ago, I told you to get lost. Could you send it back my way? I think there might be truth to it. Things like that. We might see that here. People we're working with might overhear a conversation. That actually happened to Ashley and I. We were sitting in a cafe. Somebody butted into our conversation, wanted to know more about what we were talking about, right? Like things like that are happening. And people are curious about the truth and beginning to see that, the last couple of years have likely been a big facade, okay? Especially with this cure information coming out, okay? Daily getting more and more dumps about what's really involved there and what really that was all about. So as those things come out, we're going to get a lot more people curious and wanting to know what the heck's going on. Okay, so here we've got the Five of Swords. So, remember what I said about fives. Fives are difficult transition periods. So there's transitioning here. There's anger in that card, and that's in our daily routine, but also around health. So the human consciousness, as more and more people wake up to the fact that there was actually a bioweapon used against the human race, and very likely was meant to take out a good portion of it. Okay, as that becomes known to a lot more people, okay, there's going to be a lot of anger and a lot of people going after anybody that's in the health industry, anybody that encouraged them to, get the cure. Anybody, like if your doctor was phoning you up, like a lot of UK doctors were phoning up their regular clientele and encouraging them. Those kind of doctors are all going to be on the chopping block. You know what I mean? People are not going to be happy with, and that's putting it mildly, with people that are in the know or should know better. Okay, people in authority and authority figures that were actually pushing something that was likely a weapon against humanity. Okay, so this is going to be very interesting and important to stay away and out of the way of those angry people. Okay, so watch for, there could even be, like if you're one of those people that were pushing things like that and you're out in a public place, we're going to get a lot more people being, taken to task in public. And like that 17th letter of the alphabet always said, or that group or that intelligence always said, they, being the elites and the people in on this, are not going to be able to walk the streets. Okay, and that's evident with these two cards here. People are going to be looking at and looking for people to blame. Okay, because a lot of people don't take responsibility for their own choices. And it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. Okay, so we looked at that Hermit. We're having this relationship, a deeper relationship and connection with, a more connected relationship to our higher selves. We're also connecting more with, and certainly people watching videos like this, connecting more with the idea of wiser beings, off-worlders, and or even beings from our future selves, ancient wisdom, and or maybe even advanced and more evolved wisdom from our future, right? Those wise galactic helpers. We're even having more of a connection and a relationship with that through truthers. Excuse me. Oh, through people connecting to those energies themselves, making videos about it, through us looking more into, that kind of energy and those kind of entities. We're getting more versed in what's going on outside of just our day-to-day life and earthly existence. We're starting to look at, and this is very much Age of Aquarius kind of stuff. We're looking way beyond anywhere we were looking before. We're looking way past, just right in front of us. Yeah, and it's brilliant. It's actually brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at finances again. We looked at this. Let's go the other way. So this would be the 8th house of Scorpio. We're looking at spirituality a lot differently. What used to be are maybe a lot of people's go-to spiritually, if it was religion or a certain kind of understanding. I think we're really individualizing in our spiritual connectedness. And actually, I think that's the way it should be too. Everybody individually connecting to their higher self, their soul self, instead of that group that comes together in sort of a church setting and or a religious group setting. I have a feeling we're going to get more individualistic with our personal intuitive and connection with our higher self. And that's, to me, that sounds more Aquarian. And to me, it's always been the way I've done it. I don't really want to hang out in some group I don't need the safety of like some church group. You know what I mean? I think spirituality is going to get more of an individual pursuit, frankly. And to me, that's healthier anyway. Individually connect with your higher self. You don't need a go-between. You don't need a preacher or a priest. Okay. Interesting that preachers and priests are mostly male. Like, it's fascinating to me. Okay. That leaves all of the feminine out of the whole thing. We're going to personally connect and things are going to look a lot different because of that. Yeah. I think it'll be healthier. Okay. So here we've got the 8 of Swords. That's in the house of Sagittarian. So the 9th house of philosophies. We still have a lot of understanding here. So we're dismantling the old way of thinking about things and understanding that history and history books are mostly false. Okay, timelines could have even all been manipulated. Wow. We're going to have to go in and put together, well, what is true then? What is real and what is true? If all of that's not true and not been the case, and what we thought was the way buildings were built and the timeline of that, because now we're discovering and starting to look deeper and go, how did they build St. Petersburg, for instance, when there was only 5,000 people there? Why did they build it for millions? Why was the city what it could have taken years and years, like hundreds of years, to build a city like that in some of those dwellings? How could they have done that with 5,000 people and carts and oxen? Okay, and rudimental tools. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so when you start looking at all of these things historically, most of it starts to it unravels very quickly and doesn't make any sense. Okay, it's fascinating. I didn't think of that until like 2 years ago. A lot of us, we just take things for granted. So we're going to stop taking things for granted, and we're going to have to go searching for the real truth. And we're going to need intuitives, seers, psychics, good ones. Yeah, and use our own discretion and intuition as well to piece things together, because our history books are clearly fraudulent, to put it mildly. Okay, so here we've got, this is in the 10th house where we're headed here. And we're talking about March. So not everything's out in the open for us in March, but a good portion of it. But there's still a big piece of the mystery left here. Okay, and still a lot of fear to go through in March still. Not everything's settled. Yeah, there's still going to be a lot of things we don't understand in March, but a lot more comes clear. A lot more comes clear. It's already happening. Okay, so we've got the 3 of Pentacles. Now that's dealing with family, friends, connections with friends, making new connections. We're building and rebuilding and going in new territory with friends, friend groups. That makes a lot of sense. I've recently collected a whole new group of people that I would call friends. And even who I called family, I'm not really considering family anymore, to be honest. And I know that sounds a little cruel, but to me, it just seems to work. So the 12th house is the house of, it's like the higher self. It's like the message from the higher self. So the 12th house of Pisces, the message from the higher self, looking into new territory, looking at things from a new perspective, looking beyond and getting beyond our anger at things. And that sometimes that can be hard, you know, especially with everything coming out. But we've known a lot of what other people are just discovering for 2 years now. So for our group and the group watching videos like this and what we call truthers, light warriors, people going down the rabbit holes, we need to get past anger, okay? Because the angry people are going to need our vibration to rise things up. Okay, if we join them in anger and go through things in an angry way again and stay in that place, we'll just lower the vibration. So we're the ones that are going to have to show the way past the anger. Okay, and show a good example. I know it's hard, but we're going to have to show the example in this. Okay, so now we're right back to that. This is us. So we're working really hard. We've been doing really good work. That 8 of Pentacles is like a bit of a trophy. And look at this right in the middle, Ace of Cups. So it's like we're rebirthing as a human race. We're like literally rebirthing here and coming from a more heart-centered place. Thank you so much for watching my video, and do like, share, and subscribe.